I just kept thinking, whatever patterns I establish now, whatever things, whatever road I go down will be a road that I'll travel for a while. And I didn't want to establish negative patterns because of my pain that I would be sorry for later, because it's so easy to say things and it's so easy to do things when you're hurt, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're scared. And while I was trying to process how I felt toward my husband, I love him. And I didn't want to establish things. While I didn't want to be in the same bed with him, I also didn't want to allow Satan to have that foothold in our life and our marriage that would begin to establish a pattern. So we were out of town trying to process these emotions, these feelings, where to go from here, what to do. And, I remember him asking, "Can I hold your hand?" And I'm a real snuggly, close kind of person, and thinking, I really don't want you to. And I'm so sad because I remember looking at him telling him, I love you, but I don't like you at all. And I regret things that I said through the feelings that I had. Phone calls began to come from close friends that had realized what had happened, and saying, if there's anything we can do for you, we love you, we care for you. And I didn't want to talk to anybody because I had to process what was going on in our lives. And there were times that it was almost like I was frustrated because I thought, these people are just calling trying to do something to ease their pain by saying I'm here for you, but there's nothing that can be done. And in the meantime, our pastor had announced to our church what had gone on. Before we left out of town, our pastor had told us that he would address our church congregation and let them know what had transpired. And he did something that day that at the time I really didn't know that I felt it was going to be the best thing, but looking back, I wouldn't have it any other way. When he addressed the congregation, he, instead of just saying a vague, there was a moral failure, or a vague, there was this or that, he hit the nail on the head and addressed to the congregation exactly that my husband had a problem with pornography, and that there was no affair or anything like that. And that, looking back, was, while it was hard to have your laundry exposed, it was such there was no room for gossip. Oh, well, I wonder what he did. I wonder what's going on there, because it was out. There was no veil of sin to hide behind, because through Jesus' help, everything had been brought into the light. And so we spent a few days out of town, and we came back into town. We had the opportunity to address our youth group, and probably one of the hardest things, well, I don't know if it was a very difficult thing to do, was to walk back through the doors of our church. The last thing I wanted to do was enter our church again, not because for fear of anything, but just that was hard to face. But again, I knew whatever I ran from, I wouldn't heal from. And if I truly desired healing for my husband and in our marriage, it had to be faced head on. And I walked through the doors of the church. I don't think my head could have hung any lower. And you get that feeling, everybody knows, everybody wonder what they're thinking. Is there a distrust? This isn't how This isn't how I want people to view us. And as we walked in, our head hung low, but I found an unreal, surpassing feeling of love. People that you wouldn't have dreamed, I guess going into it, that you would have been afraid, oh, they're gonna judge, they're gonna think negative. God's people showed love in our life. And I remember standing in worship services, and the words of freedom and of grace and of God's love and forgiveness and all of these things. And all I could think was, I don't understand how. I don't understand how you can move past such a thing. And I knew that I needed to forgive my husband, but I didn't know how. But I just kept coming back to, I don't even really want to be here. I don't want to go through those church doors. Honestly, to a point, I don't even want to forgive my husband for what he's done, but I know that I have to. And as goofy as it sounds, it was a process that I kind of went through. I have to. I have to go back into the church. I have to not run from God. I have to not run from my family. I have to not run from my friends. I have to receive help. I have to go to counseling. I have to be open. And as the healing process went on, and we went through counseling and talked to mentors and received godly counsel in our life, I realized there was a point that I had to move from I have to I have to want to. I have to want to forgive my husband. To I want to forgive my husband. To I forgive my husband. The turning point for me, I was stretched out over the end of our bed one afternoon, just honestly wallowing in self-pity. I had my Bible open and was reading and just crying out to God in all of the whys, and I don't understand, and it wasn't supposed to be like this. And God so clearly spoke to my heart of, sin is sin. And the sin that my husband had been dealing with was really no different than the sin of depression that I had fallen into. That sin was sin. And if we'll take the axe and put it to the root of the problem, God will kill that problem. We'll kill that sin in our life, and we can have freedom and move on. And when God placed that in my spirit and in my heart, I realized that I would be able to move to I want to forgive, to I will forgive, to I do forgive. And I want to love, I need to love, to I do love.